Good afternoon, residents of Everett, Washington. I'd like to call to order the Everett City Council meeting of January 26, 2022. In accordance with the Governor's Healthy Washington guidelines and to protect city employees and members of the public from transmission of COVID-19, the City Council is conducting our weekly council meeting remotely. We are prepared to reopen the council chambers to public meetings when public health considerations indicate it is safe to do so. There are several ways in which you can engage with the council and participate in our meetings. To watch or participate weekly, you may watch council meetings live on Comcast Channel 21 or Frontier Channel 29. You may watch live online at www.everettwa.gov/citycouncil, where you may also watch past meetings. You may call in to listen to the live meeting at any point by dialing 425-616-3920. Conference ID is 724-887-726#. And you may find the public comment registration form on the City of Everett website under the City Council Department. Once you select the Register Here to Provide Comment link, you will need to fill the form out completely if you wish to provide comment at any future meeting. After the public comment form is submitted, you'll receive an email confirmation with the Zoom link and the phone number to that meeting. Participants must submit this form at least 30 minutes prior to the meeting. Forms submitted after that time will not receive the Zoom link and number to speak, but may still participate the day of the meeting by submitting comments in writing to council@everettwa.gov. For assistance, please contact the council office at 425-257-8703 or email Deb Williams directly at dwilliams@everettwa.gov. And please note that we do not allow comments on any kind of campaigning, whether for or against ballot measures or candidates running for office. And we do not accept comments focused on personal matters that are unrelated to city business. Outside of our meetings, members of the public are always welcome to contact council members or provide comments or concerns on any matter via email at council@everettwa.gov or by calling the City Council office at 425-257-8703. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Mayor Franklin.
Here.
Councilmember Ryan.
Here.
Councilmember Vogely.
Here.
Councilmember Schwab.
Here.
Councilmember Tui.
Here.
Councilmember Fossey.
Here.
Councilmember Zarlingo.
Here.
And President Stonecipher.
Here. I'd like to call on Councilmember Tui to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes, thank you. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And I would like to call on Councilmember Schwab to read the Land Acknowledgement.
We acknowledge the original inhabitants of this pet place, the Snohomish people and their successors, the Tulalip tribes. Since time immemorial, they have hunted, fished, gathered on, and taken care of these lands and waters. We respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land and water. We will strive to be honest about our past mistakes and bring about a future that includes their people, stories, and voices to form a more just and equitable society.
Thank you. Do I have a motion for the approval of the minutes of January 19th, 2022?
Yeah, Councilmember Zarlingo so moves.
Vogely seconds.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Ryan.
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely.
Yes.
Councilmember Schwab.
Yes.
Councilmember Tui.
Yes,
Councilmember Fossey.
Yes.
Councilmember Zarlingo.
Yes.
President Stonecipher.
Yes. And we will move on to Mayor Franklin. Good afternoon, Mayor.
Yeah, good afternoon, Council. I have just a couple of updates here. First, I wanted to share a funding opportunity that we are applying for with Snohomish County Office of Recovery and Resilience. They're offering jurisdictions up to $250,000 in funding to support shelter. So we're planning to apply for funds to help us expand pallet shelters and the supportive services that we are needed. That's part of what we're already working towards with our own ARPA dollars. So this would complement that project that's already in motion. And the deadline for submission is January 31st. If we're successful in obtaining that grant, we'll come back to council for the formal acceptance of the funds, but the timeline doesn't allow us to go through the full council approval process ahead of time. So I'm just giving you a heads up that we will be bringing that if we are successful for your approval prior to accepting the funds. And then I am asking for your concurrence of an appointment to the Everett Animal Shelter Advisory Board for position 3, Nathan Shelby, for a 6-year term. And then alternative position 2, Leonelle Ogden, she'll fill a term expiring December 31st, 2022. And so for that, I would need a motion and a vote.
Councilmember Tui makes a motion to accept the 2 folks for the Animal Shelter Board.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Oakley
Councilmember
seconds.
Schwab, second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second for the appointments. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Ryan,
Yes.
Councilmember Buckley,
Yes.
Councilmember Schwab,
Yes.
Councilmember Tui,
Yes.
Councilmember Fosse,
Yes.
Councilmember Zarlingo,
Yes.
President Stonecipher.
Yes.
Thank you. So we have a couple more boards and commissions appointments, but they're not quite ready yet. So I'll be bringing back planning and cultural arts appointments hopefully very soon. And then we'll have our full new round of volunteers serving Everett for the coming year. And then lastly, I'd love to invite Chief Templeman forward to swear in 3 new officers to our Everett Police Department team.
Great. Thank you very much, Mayor Franklin, and good afternoon, council members. Dan Templeman with the Police Department. And as always, it's my honor to be able to introduce our 3 newest Everett police officers for swearing in this afternoon. And before we get to that action, I'd just like to say a few words about each one of them and introduce them to you and to our community. So I'd like to start with Silas McLaughlin. So Silas grew up in Everett, where he graduated from Everett Community College in 2020 with an associate's degree in applied science. Prior to being hired by the Everett Police Department, Silas worked for the YMCA of Snohomish County for about 7 years. During his time at the YMCA, he was assigned to multiple locations, and he worked his way up from lifeguard to camp counselor to building engineer and finally to member engagement representative. Silas is most excited to put on the Everett's uniform and perform work to preserve the quality of life that Everett residents deserve. He is inspired by his mother, who has always worked service-driven jobs in her professional career. Her work is meaningful and affects people's lives in a positive way, and that's what Silas also strives to achieve in his role as an Everett police officer. While pursuing his college degree, Silas was able to do a few ride-alongs with the Everett Police Department, and he knew that this was a place he wanted to work. The work environment was positive and team-focused, and he's most looking forward to doing patrol work and learning from his fellow officers and becoming the most proficient officer he can be. Silas graduated from the Basic Law Enforcement Academy on January 12th and will soon be starting his field training. And in his free time, Silas enjoys time with his family and friends, playing ultimate frisbee and staying in shape with strength training and Wing Chun, and as his schedule allows. Silas is excited that his law enforcement career will be in the same community that he grew up in and that he has worked in for the last several years. Thank you, Silas. Next up this afternoon is Nia Laws. So Nia was born and raised in Washington State. She graduated from Bonnie Lake High School in 2018, where she participated in track, cross country, and wrestling. After graduating from high school, Nia was a nanny for a year and also worked at a local YMCA. Prior to being hired by the Everett Police Department, Nia also worked for a car dealership where she sold vehicles. Nia is thrilled to be working for the Everett Police Department. And although she grew up in smaller communities, Nia chose to work in Everett as it would expose her to the challenges that a larger city faces. She is looking forward to learning more about police work and getting to meet new people in the city and in our community. Nia has also learned quite a bit about herself recently and continues to recognize her strengths and weaknesses, which will not only make her a better police officer, but also a better person. Several months ago, tragedy struck Nia's family during her time at the State Academy. This experience has motivated her to become the best police officer she can and reinforced why she chose a career in law enforcement. Nia graduated from the Basic Law Enforcement Academy on December 17th, 2021, and she's very excited to begin her career at Everett PD. In her spare time, Nia enjoys working out, running, reading, and spending time with family and friends. Thanks, Nia. And our third officer today for swearing in is Chad Summerfield. Chad was born and raised in Port Angeles, Washington, and graduated from Port Angeles High School in 2006. Chad received his associate's degree in applied science from Bates Technical College in 2007. Prior to being hired by the Everett Police Department, Chad worked in the emergency medical care field for 15 years. And over the last 10 years, he worked for the University of Washington North Campus Emergency Department. When considering his transition to law enforcement, Chad selected the Everett Police Department because he saw it as a well-run department with great leadership throughout. He was inspired to become a police officer so that he could provide service and support the community when they needed it most. Chad is eager to continue with his training and to get to know and engage Everett's diverse community members. Chad graduated from the Basic Law Enforcement Academy on September 9th, 2021. And a few days later, Chad and his wife welcomed their new baby into their lives. In his spare time, Chad enjoys weightlifting, hiking, camping, and spending time at their riverfront property in Eastern Washington. Thanks, Chad. So again, it's my pleasure today to introduce to you our three newest officers, Silas McLaughlin, Nia Laws, and Chad Summerfield for swearing in. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to accept Silas McLaughlin, Nia Laws, and Chad Summerfield as the newest members of the Everett Police Department?
Councilmember Tui moves that motion.
Councilmember Vogely seconds.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Ryan,
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely,
Yes.
Councilmember Schwab,
Yes.
Councilmember Tui,
Yes.
Councilmember Fossey,
Yes.
Councilmember Zarlingo,
Yes.
President Stonecipher.
Yes. And now the clerk will administer the oath.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Silas McLaughlin,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I am either a citizen of the United States
that I am either a citizen of the United States
or a lawful permanent resident,
or a lawful permanent resident,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington,
and the charter and ordinances of the City of Everett,
and the charter and ordinances of the City of Everett,
and that I will faithfully, honestly, and impartially
and that I will faithfully, honestly, and impartially
perform the duties of police officer of the City of Everett
perform the duties of police officer of the City of Everett
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
according to the best of my abilities, so help me God.
Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Congratulations.
President Stonecipher. I have no further comments. Just welcome to our newest officers. We look forward to having you and thank you for serving Everett.
Thank you. We'll go down council comments and liaison reports. I'm sure council members will want to give thanks to the new officers for choosing to work for the City of Everett. Today, we're going to start with Councilmember Ryan.
Good afternoon, everybody. Glad to be here on a during daylight. So this last week I misquoted myself. It wasn't the Parks Board that I was going to attend. It was the Council of Neighborhoods. So my apologies for misspeaking last week, but joined the Council of Neighborhoods meeting earlier this week, and I had an update that the city will be providing mini grants at $1,000 for each neighborhood. So if you have an idea about a project in your neighborhood, please reach out to your neighborhood association chair to share that idea with them. And speaking of neighborhood associations, the neighborhood associations are such a great way to get involved with your community on like a hyper local level with your local parks and sidewalks and just building community with your neighbors and the folks around you. If you don't know who your chair is, please visit the neighborhood association page on the city's website, or you can email Nicole Weber with the administration office, and she can help direct you and get you in touch with the leader in your community. Her email is nweber@everettwa.gov. I also attended the Pinehurst Beverly Park Neighborhood Association meeting yesterday, and Councilmember Zarlingo and I almost split the district in half. So it's a good tag team effort to support them down there. And the meeting was a hybrid meeting, which was really exciting to be able to have folks participating virtually and also in person. And I'm sure Councilmember Zarlingo can provide some more information during his update, but I did have a chance to share a little bit more about the PROS plan and opportunities for input on the PROS plan. At the meeting, Sheena with Helping Hands, a local organization helping people in need, was able to share more about their efforts. And Jeanette from the Everett Public School System shared more about the replacement levies and that folks should have received their ballots by now, and that ballots are due on February 8th. So just a reminder to send those in. And then I also have an update from the library. I serve as the library board liaison, and we're getting word that the health district was able to reach out to the library to pass along, or to get ready to pass along, an order of masks for folks at the library. So they're working on putting together a plan to be able to distribute them as early as Friday or as late as Tuesday. So keep your eyes peeled for the Snohomish Health District's social media pages or the library's social media page for more information about how to access those masks when they're available. There had been plans to receive tests at the library as well, but through the state, but the state ran out of tests so quickly when they first announced that folks could order them online, that that is back on the drawing table for to be put in the works. So keep your eyes peeled, and I'm sure I'll provide an update on that at a later point when it does become available. And I also wanted to share that I'm very excited that today's sunset is at 5 p.m. today. So we're finally past the 4 o'clock hour for sunset. And I just feel like it's been a long string of dark days. I'm glad that there's a little bit of brightness ahead. So that concludes my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Councilmember Vogely.
Thank you, and welcome to the newest officers in the Everett Police Department. You'll do well, I am sure. And I went to the TAC meeting, so Transportation Advisory Committee. There was a lot of information. There's always so much information covered. So I encourage you to go and attend, anybody who's listening. Third Thursday every month at 8 a.m. The bicycle master plan was brought forward as a document to update. It was last updated in 2011, and a lot of standards have changed since then. Staff is totally aware and will be utilizing the TAC as a stakeholder, as well as utilizing the planning process for the comprehensive plan update, which is due 2024. And I shared a spot with Councilmember Zarlingo at the Cascade View neighborhood meeting. We didn't discuss who was going to take on the discussion, so I'll just say one thing, and then he can do the rest. Hopefully that's okay. Besides the many new faces at that meeting, I wanted to mention some solar panel operated speed zone signs that are apparently inoperable in their area. I don't exactly know where they are, but staff, if you need me to find out so you can do a report or whatever, then I can totally get that information. But I wanted to put that out there. And I have a question for the public. I have been toying around with an idea and want your input in regards to yard signs. What do you think about disallowing them within the city limits? I know there's a lot of opinions and I want to hear what they are. Legally, a city cannot ban certain speech on signs, but it can ban an entire type of sign. So my idea, if it's possible, is to ban all plastic corrugated yard signs, including political signs, sales reminders, etc. I haven't spoken to any of my colleagues or legal or anything, and I'm not asking for a second. I just want to hear from the public. What do you think? Is it the stupidest thing you've ever heard? Or yes, please, no more signs, or anything in between? And so that is everettwa.gov. You can email me or call, find my information, call Deb, and that's all I have today. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Schwab.
Yes, thank you, and welcome our new officers. I don't see them online anymore, but hopefully they get the message. I know there's a lot of communities out there that need really good police officers, so there's a little bit of competition for them. I know Everett's a wonderful community to work in, and we have a great staff. So thank you for choosing Everett to be a part of our family. I have a few things with the Intergovernmental Relations Committee, the report. The state legislative session, of course, is in session. Matter of fact, it goes by very fast. It's a short session, and there was a lot of bills introduced in the state legislature, approximately over 900, and they have dates for passage of bills. And there's an upcoming a big date, which is Wednesday, February 3rd. A potential bill has to pass through a committee to go on to the next step. I'd like to thank Mayor Franklin and Chief DeMarco for your testimony in the local government committee, House Local Government Committee, on our House Bill 1811. Good job. That bill gives the option of having a fire service benefit charge, which we could potentially go to a vote to our citizens as a way to fund EMS and public safety. Also, I'd like to thank our planning director, Yorick Stevens Fida. Did I get that right? No? Oh, okay. Someone pronounce it. Come on.
Wajda, close.
Wajda, that's how you say it? I apologize. I knew I was going to kill it. For your testimony on our Housing and Human Services Veterans Affairs Committee, there's a bill, House Bill 1880, which is related to creating economic or encourage development of affordable housing and community development projects, and particularly in transit corridors, and even future light rail stations. So very excited, and thank you for participating in that. Deputy Mayor Nick Harper and I represented the City of Everett with the Economic Alliance of Snohomish County. We met with representatives from Senator Robinson's office and Representative Wicks to discuss, there was a multitude of community members in the meeting. So we talked generally about transportation packages, particularly that Highway 529 and I-5 HOV lanes. And we talked a little bit about the importance of getting some engineering design dollars for a pedestrian bridge going over North Broadway at Everett Community College. So that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Councilmember Toohey.
Yeah, thank you, Council President. Well, I too would like to welcome our 3 new officers. I think you picked the the best police department to work for, and we're thrilled to have you, and we look forward to meeting you in person. I did attend the Snow 911 board meeting last Thursday morning, and I look forward to, after our retreat on Friday, to set up meetings for the Public Safety Committee as well as the Homelessness and Housing Committee. So I look forward to getting in and getting something to work with on the staff and just move everything forward. So that's all I have for tonight, or this afternoon sometime. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Fosse.
Thank you. I also want to say welcome to our new officers. I had several meetings recently. I went to the Delta Tactical Urbanism Planning Community meeting, which was very interesting, and I'm sure there'll be more to come from that. It's for pedestrian safety and calming measures. I met with the wonderful Cynthia Pruitt for an overview on Snohomish County tomorrow, where I'm the alternate. And for anyone that's unfamiliar with it, it's the association of 19 cities in Snohomish and towns in Snohomish County, and Snohomish County government and the Tulalip tribes. And it serves as a forum to develop and recommend growth management policies to the county council. So that will be exciting. I also went to the Northwest Neighborhood Association meeting. Brian Doyle was there as the presenter, talking about Everett Career Link and work-based learning, mentorships and internships for students. And there was also a presentation about the 2 upcoming replacement levies for Everett Public Schools and how the ballots are due February 8th. And I shared about our recent briefing that we had for and just the dire need of early learning and childcare. And I feel really grateful that we have the Everett Community College Early Learning Center right here in District 1 in Northwest, because they not only provide union living wages here, but they also help break those like systemic barriers for better life for our families in this community. I mean, free ECAP and other preschool support services. It's pretty amazing. And then on top of that, they are providing multiple academic programs and a place for students to have their required practicum hours. So just such an awesome stakeholder and valuable resource that really seems indicative of our values in the city. I also went to the Historical Commission, and that was really fascinating, and getting to see so many wonderful neighbors there that are really passionate about the city. They introduced 2 new commissioners, Teresa Gemmer and Ashley Bush, and they elected their new chair and vice chair and finalized their 2022 work plan. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to seeing where this goes. So that's all my comments for today.
Great, thank you. And finally, Councilmember Zarlingo.
Well, thank you. Specifically for new officers, Nia Laws and Summerfield, I'd like to welcome you to the staff of our city. Some of you are already residents here. I'd like to thank you for the vote of confidence in Everett and your willingness to serve. This is not a perfect city, but it's a great city, and I'm happy to have you here. I look forward to meeting you in person sometime. And if you're at a neighborhood meeting, one of the 4 neighborhoods in my district sometime, or just see me on the street, stop and say hello. On the subject of neighborhood meetings, as previously mentioned, I attended the Cascade View neighborhood meeting with Councilmember Vogely, and the Pinehurst Beverly Park meeting with Councilmember Ryan. We're working to get more familiar with these neighborhoods and the people and issues. Good example in the Cascade View, one resident described an intermittent problem with backups at particular times on 7th Avenue. So I'll follow up with her. That's the kind of stuff we can shed some light on that might not be otherwise made aware of. And a good example of the benefits of council members by district. And I think as Councilmember Ryan mentioned, Pinehurst Beverly Park was experimenting with a hybrid meeting. Some people attended in person at the Cascade High School Library, where they could have significant distance between them. Now there was some additional complexity in setup, so I appreciate the work they put into that to make that effort to foster connections and neighborhood cohesion by whatever means they can. I represented Everett at Snohomish Health District's Program Policy Committee, and no surprise, continuing discussions there are still dominated by COVID measures. A quick note about the Omicron cases declining here in Snohomish County. Good news there, but hospitals still badly stressed. And, you know, as an example, 18 counties, including some of the most populous ones in 18 counties in Idaho, including some of the most populous ones, are implementing crisis care standards. That's a dreadful situation. And there's potential spillover into Washington with whatever capacity we can lend that way. So I want to thank our community members for continuing to be careful and doing what you can to slow the spread, stay healthy, support your community by avoiding overloading the hospitals. And then lastly, thanks to the Parks Department for their response and to Councilmember Ryan for a question about undeveloped land access. Some interesting stuff going on that way, and a good explanation from Parks about their kind of three roles as passive parks, active parks, and conservation properties. We certainly benefit from all three. And I'm happy to see the pros plan and the proposed plan and districted council member structure focusing on more equal investment and targeting more equal access to parks across the city. I guess in particular, I think District 4 probably has the lowest access in terms of close walking access to parks. District 5 somewhat better, but still below average for the city. So this is Parks paying attention to equity, and I think that's a great thing. I really wasn't aware of that as much previously. There are several parks fairly close to me, so I'm fortunate that way, but I realize some aren't. So looking forward to more of that and appreciate that update in the plan. And that's all I have. Thank you, President Stonecipher.
Thank you. And I don't have any specific report for liaison assignments. I did want to lend my congratulations to our newest police officers, and so happy to see one of our own local residents coming back and serving the city in that way. That's wonderful. I want to remind council members and the public that the council will hold a special meeting on this Friday from 4 to 8 p.m. This is the purpose of having a retreat to discuss the council procedures. And I wanted to let the public know that we will not be taking public comment at that meeting. That will be a meeting just for the council members to have dialogue around the issues that we need to discuss with regard to our procedures for the current year. The agenda is available online and it will be, I believe, published in the newspaper. Also want to remind our residents and voters that ballots are in the mail, and don't forget to exercise your right to vote. Do we have an update today from administration?
No administrative update this afternoon, Council President Stonecipher. Thank you.
Thank you. And City Attorney, Mr. Hall, what do you have for us today?
Nothing to report, but I also want to welcome our 3 new officers. Our prosecutors work very closely with our officers, and they truly appreciate the quality of officer that we are lucky to have here in the city. And I'm sure our new officers will live up to that high standard. We are requesting a 20-minute executive session today to discuss a litigation matter pursuant to RCW 42-3110-1I with no announcement to follow. Thank you.
Thank you. And Deb Williams, have we received any comments from the community for public comment?
Good afternoon, President Stonecipher. I have received written comment from Louis Borbano on public comment, Brian Donnebrick and Michelle Stewart on item 10, traffic cameras. I have 4 community members wishing to speak, 1 member after the consent items, 2 members on item 8, and 1 member on item 10, and I'll call on them when we get to those items. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We will now go on to our consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the 5 consent items?
Councilmember Tui moves the consent items forward.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Councilmember Oakley. Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and 2 seconds for the consent agenda. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Ryan,
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely,
Yes.
Councilmember Schwab,
Yes.
Councilmember Tui,
Yes.
Councilmember Fossey,
Yes.
Councilmember Zarlingo,
Yes.
President Stonecipher.
Yes, and I believe we now have one person who would like to speak on the electric bus action that we just took.
Eldon Lau, please show your camera if possible. Please unmute yourself and remember to limit your comments to 3 minutes. Eldon?
Hi. I just want to speak a little bit in regards to the traffic cameras as well as the Everett purchase of the electric vehicles. Thank you, council members. My name is Eldon Law. I'm the lead mobility justice advocate for the Snohomish County Transportation Coalition, or SNOTRAC. SNOTRAC advocates for connecting people and communities in Snohomish County and beyond with safe, equitable, and accessible transportation. SNOTRAC expresses our gratitude towards the City of Everett and Everett Transit in your efforts to pursue a 100% electric bus fleet, which continues to progress today, with the purchase of one more fully electric bus and charging pad. In addition, we support the move towards the increased use of automated traffic enforcement. Many areas in Everett have poor air quality due to vehicle diesel emissions. For example, according to the Washington State Environmental Health Disparities Map, nearly all of Everett has the worst ratings for both nitrogen oxide and particulate matter 2.5. Studies show that low-income households and people of color tend to live in communities with higher concentrations of these air pollutants and are disproportionately impacted, resulting in higher rates of asthma, heart disease, and other health impacts. This isn't just good for our city's neighborhood, it is also good for our whole planet. Transportation is responsible for 54% of Everett's greenhouse gas emissions, with bus powered by clean energy provided by Snohomish PUD. Everett Transit is on the path to become essentially carbon-free. Everett Public Works proposal for 13 automated traffic cameras will help make our streets safer. In the last 2 years, the number of traffic collisions resulting...
Eldon, I'm going
Yes.
to interrupt you at this time and ask you to hold your comments for the traffic cameras till we get to
Okay.
that item, okay? Thank you
Yes.
so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
President Stonecipher, those are all I have to speak at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. We will move on to our action agenda. Item 6, before I ask for a motion, I will ask if Nicole Weber is available here. And we would like to have confirmation that all nominees are available. And are there any challenges or changes that need to be made?
All applicants responded that they are available and there are no, excuse me, there are no changes that need to be made. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, do I have a motion finding the nominees represent a reasonable geographic diversity and request the 2022 Districting Commission nominations be moved to appointments?
Councilmember Ryan so moves.
Councilmember Fosse seconds.
We have a motion and a second. Before we take the roll, we'll go down and ask each member if there are any further comments, starting with Councilmember Ryan.
No further comments. Thank you.
Councilmember Vogley.
We're gonna vote on it, and I'm sure it will be a yes. So yay, welcome everybody. Do a good job. We know you will.
Councilmember Schwab.
No comments, thank you.
Councilmember Toohey.
No comments. Thank you.
Councilmember Fosse.
I just again want to thank the quality and amazing, wonderful applicants that all applied for it. And it was a really hard choice for all of us to, narrow it down. So please don't hesitate from applying for other boards and commissions and being active in your city, because it definitely was a tough choice to pick these folks. So thank you for everyone that applied.
Thank you. Councilmember Zarlingo.
My sentiments very well expressed by Councilmember Fosse. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just, for my comments, would like to thank those who were willing to come forward to serve, and to those who were selected to serve on this very, very important commission. As everyone recalls, this was a vote from the citizens and the voters of Everett. And it's important that we carry out this work with integrity and bring forward the new districts, if they are to be redistricted, with utmost haste. With that, I will call the roll.
Councilmember Ryan,
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely,
Yes.
Councilmember Schwab,
Yes.
Councilmember Tui,
Yes.
Councilmember Fosse,
Yes.
Councilmember Zarlingo,
Yes.
President Stonecipher.
Yes. Item 7, Council Bill 2201-01, third and final reading. Adopt the proposed ordinance closing a special improvement project entitled Sewer O Utility Upgrades, Fund 336, Program 013, as established by ordinance number 3760-20. Do I hear a motion?
Councilmember Tui moves the motion.
Vogely seconds.
I'll go down the roll to make sure we don't have questions or comments, starting with Councilmember, what is it? Councilmember Ryan,
No comments or questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Vogely,
No comments or questions. Thanks.
Councilmember Schwab,
No comments. Thank you.
Councilmember Tui,
No comments. Thank you.
Councilmember Fosse,
No comments. Thank you.
Councilmember Zarlingo.
A quick thanks to staff from Public Utilities for Public Works on explaining this situation and on bringing that one in under budget and returning some money to the general fund. So thank you, and no further questions.
Thank you. And I have no further questions or comments. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Ryan,
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely,
Yes.
Councilmember Schwab,
Yes.
Councilmember Tui,
Yes.
Councilmember Fosse,
Yes.
Councilmember Zarlingo,
Yes.
President Stonecipher.
Yes. Move to item 8, authorize the mayor to sign the lease agreement with Bezos Academy in substantially the form provided and to take all other actions necessary to implement the lease agreement. And do we have, oh, I see Dan Ernest here. Dan, do you have any presentation or comments to make at this time?
I do, President Stonecipher and council members. Thank you for the opportunity. I tried to follow the many questions from last week's presentation, as well as those I saw on social media and so forth, and just come up with a short statement before the council has further comments and questions that they can ask. Scott Edison from the Bezos Academy is also present, who can answer questions as needed. On February 4th, 2002, almost exactly 20 years ago, Everett Station opened to serve our city. Everett's leaders built it as an environmentally safe, welcoming, and architecturally compelling place that would attract activity, investment, and growth into what they understood to be an evolving and strategic part of downtown. Note the wonderful progress that this area has already made to realize the vision of Everett Station. Hundreds of residential homes in the surrounding blocks have opened or are in the permit process now, providing a healthy mix of affordable and market rate housing. A weekly farmers market that we trust will resume after the pandemic is in the rearview mirror has operated on 32nd at the doorstep of the station. An active and engaged property owner and business community has emerged, and the Metro Everett planning effort has laid the groundwork for the area's future. We believe that this lease agreement with the Bezos Academy helps fulfill this same vision, and we are confident that its staff, students, and high-quality preschool program offered free of charge will stimulate further investment and bring a wonderful multi-generational energy to Everett Station. The Bezos Academy is a nonprofit organization with a single-minded commitment to offering outstanding preschool with free tuition to households that cannot afford it. Motivated by his own preschool experiences, Mr. Bezos made a $2 billion donation to fund a network of preschools dedicated to providing free tuition, high-quality early education to those households that lack access. It should be clearly noted that neither Mr. Bezos nor Amazon financially benefit in any way from this lease agreement or from the work of the Bezos Academy. The lease agreement is a standard agreement with the city acting as landlord and giving the tenant, Bezos Academy, the right to occupy a 3,400 square foot approximate ground floor office space with the condition that it provides year-round free tuition preschool aimed at those who cannot afford it, with foster children and children experiencing homelessness given priority admission. Placing an early learning center at Everett Station results in practical help to these same households through the convenience of public transportation. I imagine that residents would go out of their way for high quality free tuition preschool, but Everett Transit, Community Transit, and Sound Transit all provide an amazing spiderweb of transit connectivity and convenience between Everett Station and their homes, jobs, errands, and pending council's decision today, the drop-off and pickup location for their home's preschool. No exceptional air, noise, light, or safety issues are anticipated with the space that is proposed to be occupied by the Bezos Academy. The building is a Class A structure with modern air handling equipment and fire sprinklers. Train traffic at Everett Station is moderate to light and operates at low speeds. All tenant improvements made by the Bezos Academy must comply with permitting and code requirements for an early learning center. A separate entrance will be provided by Bezos Academy with restrooms and food prep facilities for its exclusive use. And the outdoor play area created by the Bezos Academy is located on the north shady side of the building and will be secured to keep students and staff safe. In return for the city's investment of approximately $60,000 per year, the Bezos Academy will contribute high quality, free tuition preschool for 60 students per year. I should say up to 60 students per year. If we use a conservative estimate of each student's tuition, meals, and supplies of only $1,000 a month, and many will argue that $1,000 a month is far too low for high quality preschool, the Bezos Academy is contributing $60,000 per month, or a 12-to-1 match of the city's investment. Note that this 12-to-1 match is prior to adding the value of the 1 million or so in capital improvements made to the Everett Station. This is prior to the 12 jobs that it will create, and it's also prior to the benefit brought to Everett households who likely can neither afford high quality preschool or the year-round care that allows household members freedom to work. Finally, I should note that the city is limited in its ability to provide free rent. One of the conditions is that the beneficiary of the free rent will provide valuable services to the poor and infirm of our community. And we have confirmed that the lease agreement with the Bezos Academy will in fact result in exactly the type of needed services that allow it to qualify. So that is my statement. I'm certainly open to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. We'll go down the roll to see what questions our members have, starting with Councilmember Ryan.
Hey, thank you. So access to quality early learning is one of the cornerstone of determining a child's trajectory towards success, and it dramatically impacts their life choices, which impacts their life chances. I'm really excited about this. I think that it's going to be wonderful for some of the kids in the area that don't have equitable access to early learning centers and quality early learning centers. My question is possibly for Mayor Franklin, maybe for Dan, maybe for legal, so whoever wants to jump in. If there were some other groups in the area that also wanted to provide a similar service like this, would there also be a partnership opportunity for those groups with the city?
So just in general, if there's an organization that wants to partner with us, so for example, in our Parks Department, we've put out a number of requests for partnerships, for proposals to utilize park properties, and so we've tried to reach out for any organization that is looking to partner with the city, and we evaluate all those proposals very much we're looking for partners to help us deliver services. The city, as you all know, cannot afford to deliver all the services that our community needs. And so creating partnerships in order to do that is absolutely a goal of ours. And we would welcome requests that the community have to partner with us. As Dan stated, when it comes to our ability to give free rent, it has to qualify under something in the serving the poor and infirm, or it's kind of by the legal terminology. But certainly finding ways to partner with us to deliver services to serve our residents, we'd love folks to reach out to us.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I think when I think about this vote today, I think about how the decision is before us because Everett's in a childcare desert. And the need is so great that we've been identified as one of the priority places for an early learning center. And so I wanted to voice my support also for the other existing early learning centers in the area. The preschool at Forest Park through the city, I'd love to bolster those services, and also the early learning center, like Councilmember Fossey mentioned earlier, at the community college provides such an incredible opportunity for student pathways towards jobs in early learning, and also for care for children through the early learning center. So I think that, like I said last week, the more the merrier when it comes to spots in early learning, quality early learning centers. So that concludes my remarks for today. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll move on to Councilmember Vogely.
Thank you. And I want to thank Dan for that statement immensely. And also last week in answering my unasked questions, I guess. It is really important to me, and childcare, quality childcare, is just like Councilmember Ryan said. I'm not going to even repeat all of the words that she prepared because I didn't prepare them. I just know how darned important it is. And it really is. And so full day, full year, phenomenal. Living wages, also great. So a positive work environment, a positive climate environment, with transit and the playground that I'm sure will be fantastic. I just wanted to reiterate that this is a very good idea, and I'm very glad that the foundation is choosing Everett. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Schwab.
Yeah, I just want to say thanks to the mayor for and her staff for reaching out. This type of partnership is a great model for the city in many different ways. And I'm very grateful and very thankful they chose Everett. It's an ideal location. And I can't wait, and I'm looking forward to see what's next on the horizon for Everett. These types of partnerships are really about what our future is going to look like. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Toohey.
Yeah, thanks, Council President. I just want to again thank the mayor and the staff for really seeing the value in this opportunity, and to know that it's a great thing for Everett. But the biggest value of all is for the children that will get to attend. So excited about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Fossey.
Thank you. I second a lot of Councilmember Ryan's comments. We are in a childcare crisis and in dire need of early learning. So this is a welcome addition to a site that I think will be really great for it as far as, the improvements coming to that area. I did have a question about the signage issue, and if that is something that would end up just going through city approval. Is the council involved in any of those decisions, or is that, if somebody could clarify that?
We have codes that kind of dictate what our signs look like, what signage looks like in the city. And so it goes through the administrative approval process. It doesn't come back to council for approval. That's just administrative action that on the planning department takes as different projects come through.
Okay.
If
My
there-
only, yeah, my only concern with that was just making sure that it was going to be associated with the nonprofit and not necessarily from anything to do with the bigger donor picture. That was.
I think that the organization has standard signage that they use. It's a Bezos Academy. That's the name of the nonprofit organization and the childcare centers that they offer. And so we could probably share examples of what the signage has looked like in previous
That's fine.
places, but it will adhere to Everett standards for signage.
Great, thank you.
And I believe they've attached a image of how it would look.
Any further comments, Councilmember Fosse?
No further comments. Thank you. And thank you for bringing this amazing resource forward in a time where our city really needs it.
Thank you. Councilmember Zarlingo?
I'd like to thank the mayor and staff and those from Bezos Academy. The explanations and fleshing out of all this was clear and eloquent. I'm happy to see this coming here. I think this kind of cooperative thing is, as Councilmember Schwab said, a great model and great leverage in the lives of these children and of their parents. I did take a look at that site there at Everett Station on the north side. And you know, this is a space that, as Mr. Ernest said, has been underused or almost not used recently. And outside, and there's good pickup and drop off there, good traffic access. And also that area outside there is going to displace a relatively small number of parking spaces and replace some asphalt with a more welcoming area. So I think that's going to be a bit of a benefit, because otherwise that area around Everett Station is pretty much all hardened surfaces. So I think that's going to be that, and kids out there learning and enjoying themselves and interacting. I think it's going to be a great balance to the hustle and bustle and intensity and hard surfaces of a transit center. So I think this is the city and the private foundation all working really well together for the betterment of all. Thank you.
Thank you. And I had a couple questions. I was not here for the original briefing. Dan, do we know what the enrollment capacity is at this site?
Yes, it's 60 students. They are planning on 3 classrooms, and they operate their classrooms with 20 students. Scott Edison could answer specific questions beyond that if you'd like. I believe he's on the call, but if it's just a number, I know that.
Thank you. That is helpful. And I noticed in the agreement that we've got the tenant has an obligation to pay prevailing wages for any of the construction that will be done on site. I'm curious, I didn't see anything about the wages that will be paid to the workers at this facility. Do we have any discussions or assurances from the Academy on that?
I will parrot what Scott said last week. Is typically they reflect the wages being paid by the local school district.
Okay, great, thank you. So for my part, I think this is a great partnership that the city is venturing into. It's been pointed out that the transit station has not exactly been thriving in terms of our ability to lease out space. And so being able to put some of this space to good use for such a good purpose is really kind of a magic partnership between the public sector and what would be presumably the private sector. I think this is a nonprofit, so it's a little bit different, but at the same time, it benefits and functions in the same way. So I'm really glad to support this. I think that these are the kinds of things that the city needs to be more thoughtful and sort of innovative in identifying and bringing forward, because we simply can't afford to provide the kinds of services that we need in our community. And for the city to spend $60,000 out of the general fund to educate 60 students throughout the year is really quite impressive. My day job is that I work for a lot of independent schools, and certainly a school of this caliber with 60 students in it it's a several $million-dollar a year venture. And so for us to get that in our community for free childcare that is so woefully needed in our community, and at the transit station, where we hope at some point we will be able to grow out the transit hub that meets the needs of people commuting in, maybe dropping off their child at the child care center and heading off on one of our buses to work. I think that's a great win for the community. I'm also happy to see that it's not, a forever lease, because as our community grows and develops, we may find a higher and better use for this transit station space at some point in the future. So we leave ourselves the flexibility of finding that in the future. So very happy to see this, and very happy to report or to support this action today. I know we have a couple members of the public that would like to speak at this time, and so I'll have Deb Williams call them forward.
President Stonecipher, I have 3 members wishing to speak on this item. As I call on you, please unmute yourself and turn on your camera if possible. Please begin by giving your name and your city of residence. Please remember to limit your comments to 3 minutes. At 30 seconds, I will ask you to wrap up, and I will begin with Michael Feltz. Mr. Feltz?
And I am so impressed with your recognizing the sovereignty of the tribes in your opening. This is a huge step for government to government relationships. So I think it honors the tribes, and it also honors you and your ancestors. So I really appreciate that. I'm speaking today as a friend and consultant to Greater Trinity Academy. And we are very supportive of Bezos Academy and coming into Everett. The Bezos family has funded some of the programs at our school. And we had an opportunity to meet with a couple of the representatives from Bezos Academy about the potential location of a school in Everett. So we had expected that there was going to be some more dialogue and that they would get some more input from us about serving the local community. And so I don't think it's a game ender or anything like that, but I did want to say that as a white person in particular, I took it as disrespectful of Bezos to not get more participation from us, who's been serving the African American community for 23 years. So again, it's not a game ender, but we would ask that maybe they reach out and get some input from us and other local providers, because we've been providing services in the community and are community-based in the African American community. So, and we'd hope for a partnership with them and at least some feedback. So the second thing is, I also want to acknowledge the work that other providers and Greater Trinity Academy have provided for 23 years. We're actually about to start a capital campaign because we're expanding our school to double the capacity and to add affordable housing to our property. And this is a school that's been operated by African Americans for 23 years. Incredible dedication. Terry Metcalf, who's local from Everett, NFL star, went back to school and is got a doctorate in education. He's been our lead teacher for 10 years and just does a fantastic job. So the quality of our work has been acknowledged in the numbers that we have. Kids going into school with tremendous readiness, usually above grade level. And also, we've had major partners. The school districts have partnered with us. We just completed a statewide assessment in partnership and funded by the Department of Commerce. So genuinely, we welcome Bezos, but we would like to have the city help us with our capital campaign, and also have more dialogue with Bezos as they come in to serve our communities.
Thank you very much, Mr. Phelps. Next, I'd like to call on Dr. Paul Stewart Sr. Dr. Stewart Sr., please begin by giving your name and please turn on your camera if possible.
Do you have my camera? Dr. Paulie Senior, those of you who do not know me, I think that it's best that I at least introduce myself to you who don't know me, who never met me. But I love the Bezos family. But I got a problem with the city of Everett right now, because I don't believe due justice has been able to speak up, speak out, and acknowledge what's been in your community, be it your front door or your back door, for the past 23 plus years. To have children that come from the BIPOC community, like Michael said, I really appreciate how we have honored our Native community in the beginning. But I feel like this is a disgrace, and this is a dissatisfaction to the African-American community in which we represent the city of Everett. Now, the first thing is that you all will probably say, oh, we never heard of Greater Trinity Academy or Rise Up Academy. I wonder how many of you could raise your hand while I look at you, council personnel, can say you've heard of Greater Trinity Academy. Then the other question would be, if you have heard of Greater Trinity Academy, how many of you honestly can say you spent more than 10 minutes on the grounds to tour Greater Trinity Academy? It's a sad tragedy that you all don't represent Everett to where you can speak of Everett in the solidarity of saying to a new entity that's coming into Everett, great family, great challenge for the community. A lot of areas that we can do that they can't do. But when you have a school that's been in your front door, back door, side door, whatever fence it is, and you can't speak to that as council personnel, the question is, do you really know what's in your city? Be it a sidewalk separated of the county or whatever it is. And so I'm not trying to sound dissatisfaction, but I'm trying to say that what we've given to you as a quality nonprofit organization for 23 plus years. You've had Nate McMillan, the former coach of the Sonics, who's now coaching the Atlanta Hawks. You've had Kenny Easley, who's a Hall of Famer, who cut the ribbon on this school, along with Bob Drewell. 23 years ago, you have a former Everett Community College football player, Terry Metcalf, who went on to play with St. Louis Cardinals, live in South Seattle, and been a part of this school for over 20 years in its curriculum build for what we do for children.
30 seconds, please.
And here it is. He drives 80 miles a day. His wife told him a few weeks ago, do you not know you drive 40 hours a month to go up to Everett to help them children start at 2 years old and start reading at 3.5, 4 years old? So I think you all need to say this, and I'm closing by saying this. I support the Bezos Academy coming, but what I don't support leadership not being able to speak to what else you know you got in this community. That's a sad tragedy of each who served as a council.
Thank you, sir. Last, I would like to call on Ben Young. Mr. Young, please turn on your camera if possible, and please unmute yourself. Mr. Young.
Good afternoon. I'm coming and speaking
about the Bezos Academy. And part of me wants to applaud the idea of the Bezos Foundation or the Bezos Academy coming into the Everett community. But as a person that is directly involved in a number of the nonprofit organizations within Snohomish County, especially in Everett, as I am a longtime resident of Valley View, I have seen firsthand the need for more academies like that. But I also know that there are a number of folks that are within this community that bring that to the table. And with that, I am definitely seeing that the council, while the opportunity that the Bezos Academy presents to the Everett area, it may be an even greater opportunity for the for this body or this governmental body to make sure that the locals that have been doing some heavy lifting on a grassroots level are given an opportunity. You know, I can definitely talk about a number of them because I was also involved in the PASTA, or the Puget Sound Taxpayer Accountability Act, I think it's what it's called. And we were talking about preschool and early childhood learning there. And it is with that for that reason alone that I'm saying that I know what's in the area and the local people. And that's why it's coming as a challenge for Bezos, because this is someone that they do have quite a bit of money and they bring a lot of assets to the community, but at the same time, are they leaving a lot that's on the table by not utilizing those folks that are currently there? That becomes a challenge for me as we expand this community, because what it does is, again, brings the same old, truly. It is not, in my opinion, equity-based, because you're not seeing enough of the folks. Now, yes, I'm a little bit biased and I will speak to Black people and African-American community, but I also know that I have been supporting and aiding that the entire 30% of the non-white population that exists within Snohomish County, and especially in Everett. And I would like for this body to do some further consideration, and if at all possible, see if you can get further concessions if you haven't already signed the agreement with them to delve more into the local community and further cooperation with those that already exist. And thank you for the time today.
Thank you for your comments. President Stonecipher, those are all I have wishing to speak on this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. I think because we've had some speakers, we'll go down the roll one more time to see if there are any further questions and comments before we call the vote. Starting with Councilmember Ryan.
No further comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Vogely.
I really hear what our callers have said, and I think Councilmember Ryan may have heard from them previously. I'm only guessing because of the question she asked at the beginning. Can other entities try the same type of thing with the city, but maybe not? One of my big issues is that one reason that we so desperately need quality free childcare is because people do not get paid a living wage. And they certainly could be. And there is enough money from this particular philanthropist to really get involved with every single community that the foundation has found a place for a school. And so I do echo our commenter's words in foundation, I can't even say his name, Bezos Foundation, please do reach out. I don't think it's in our purview to put it in the lease agreement, but it is certainly in the purview for human rights to spend the money that you have because we deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Schwab.
No comments. I want to thank the speakers for speaking their heart.
Thank you. Councilmember Toohey.
Yeah, I just want to also thank the speakers today, and I think it's great what they have done and are continuing to do in our community. And I do hope, and I'm hopeful that there is a partnership with the city that we can look at. I know the mayor talked about that, so I think that might be a next step, as well as perhaps the Bezos Foundation will meet with you and try to do some partnerships there. But we have a great need, greater than both organizations, probably greater than 5 times as many. And so we just need to get as much as we can to help all the kids, and do look forward to possible partnership with your organization. But thank you so much for speaking with us. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Fossey.
I wanted to express my appreciation for the speakers that came and provided comments. I know there has been limited criticism on the foundation and other areas, perhaps. Why weren't they funding existing programs? But with this being just in such a dire need right now, I hope it doesn't come across as not being appreciative of the other entities and the stakeholders in our community that have already been doing that much needed work. And I know Cassie did elaborate a little bit more on the community partnerships and give an answer last time. Maybe she could reiterate that in a second. But is there a potential, just as a request, that the Bezos Foundation follow up with us and give us an update on how those partnerships and collaborations with local stakeholders and how that work is going, just as kind of a briefing or update in the future as they're working on that? So we keep in the know. Is that a possibility?
Well, certainly Dan Ernesty is going to be in close conversations and working closely with the Bezos Academy on how they are working collaboratively with us and with our community partners on this particular school, as far as what they're looking at future-wise for additional schools or additional partnerships. As we mentioned last week, it would be our hope that this is the first, but there could be more. And when they've done others, sometimes they've partnered with a senior center, or sometimes they partnered with another organization. So maybe there's an opportunity there for a different type of partnership, not necessarily with the City of Everett. And then, as I said at the beginning, I think Trinity Academy is an outstanding organization. I did get to spend time there and tour and visit with Dr. Stewart, and was incredibly impressed with the students and the teachers and the work that they're doing there. And I would encourage them and any other organization to please reach out to us if there's an opportunity for partnership, like I'll reiterate our RFP process, where we really need our partners and organizations to creatively work with us to deliver services. Paula, you've talked about the Forest Park Daycare Center, Childcare Center. And that is something that we, as a city, it's very hard for us to afford to run that center. All of our recreation programs, most cities don't have them because you just can't afford it. It is impossible for us to do that as cost effectively as nonprofit organizations or some of the other organizations, educational organizations that are in our community doing that work. And so if we have partners that are interested in helping us expand our work to better serve our residents, we are all in to explore those partnership opportunities.
Anything more, Councilmember Fossey?
No, thank you. Thank you so much for that. I just want to reiterate my hope that we can have a future briefing on that as it develops.
Thank you. We'll move to Councilmember Zarlingo.
I'd like to thank the commenters, first of all, for their comments, and secondly, for the work they've been doing in all these years in such an important task. The discussion last week included some information on children of different ages in proximity to the proposed Bezos Center. And that led to some questions and I think useful discussion about more of that kind of effort here in other parts of the city, especially here in districts 4 and 5, and some comments from Councilmember Vogely. So I think those are all very much on target. I appreciate the mayor's outreach in this case in terms of further partnerships. I hope we can do more of this. I don't think any of this to me prejudices the value and the contribution of the facility at the Everett Transit Center. I hope we can expand this because I agree with the other commenters. This is very high leverage, very important. It's an investment we make for years down the road. And I'm aware of the church there on the corner of 4th and 112th and had seen the signs for the Academy, but I have to apologize. I know no more than that about it so far. I'll seek to learn more. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just ask one quick question. Remind me, either Mayor Franklin or Dan Ernestine, one of the priorities for the ARPA funds allocations was to be childcare. And I know we don't, have we issued any specific dollars related to childcare to the state from ARPA funding? I can't recall what we've acted on.
I'm going to jump in, Dan. We haven't. So we're planning to update you kind of on our current priorities that we're exploring, and kind of just share where we're at, and obviously any of that comes back to you. I believe that one of the reasons we're challenged with this is actually funded out of the general fund and not ARPA, because ARPA presented some barriers to funding this. And so it would be a question, honestly, for Susie and finance, and all these different funding mechanisms get very complicated. And so whether we could fund a childcare partnership out of ARPA, I guess, is probably a question mark. It doesn't mean it's not something that's on our list of priorities that we'll explore, but
still looking at it.
We're still looking at it. Yeah, absolutely.
Got it. Yeah, I couldn't remember where we were. So none of the grants that we have allocated out of ARPA at this point have been related to childcare. Those were mostly
there were a couple Everett CARES grants that childcare facilities received, but we haven't, other than the small CARES grants, we haven't done a larger allocation out of ARPA.
Okay, great. Thank you. I just couldn't remember where we were at on that. Well, I guess, for my final comments, I'll just say, I think it's important not to think of these types of partnerships as a zero-sum game. We have more need in our community than our current providers can provide. And so certainly we need to look at expanding, and it's not, it's not our desire to, it's not like this is trying to create competition for funding or for students to enroll in childcare centers. There simply are, I've heard from many families that they're just, the need for childcare is just dire. And I know the staffing shortages have been definitely played a factor in that, as well as just a lot of childcare facilities, particularly some of the home-based ones, have just closed. I mean, people are changing their mind about what they want to do with their lives. And so I don't know that we have an official count of childcare spaces for preschool in our community at this time, post-COVID pandemic. but we certainly don't at this point have more childcare spaces, and the need continues to grow. And in addition, we're planning on adding, 35,000 people in our community over the next decade or more, and that certainly will bring a greater need for childcare. So I would love to see how we could support local communities. I think we've done a good job in the past with our grant dollars that we have available to support childcare in our community, and I would be happy to hear from administration if there are other ways that we could help support some of those Indigenous providers of preschool services in our community. Certainly appreciate the work that they do and continue to do. With that, I will ask the clerk, will you please take the roll?
Councilmember Ryan,
Yes.
Councilmember Vogely,
Yes.
Councilmember Schwab,
Yes.
Councilmember Tui,
Yes.
Councilmember Fosse,
Yes.
Councilmember Zarlingo,
Yes.
President Stonecipher.
Yes.
And if I may interrupt, we didn't have a motion or a second prior.
Thank you for keeping us on track here. Do I hear a motion to approve item 8?
Councilmember Tui moves item 8. Thank you.
Vogely seconds.
Thank you. Do we need to take the roll over again?
I don't believe so. We're good.
Very good. Thank you. If anyone wants to withdraw their action on that item, please make yourself known now. Okay, we'll move on to the council briefing agenda. These items come before the City Council serving as a council committee of the whole and are likely to be scheduled at a future meeting. Item 9, adopt the resolution for the 2022 Human Needs Fund recommendations. And I think we have Kimbra Landry here. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely, President Stonecipher. I'm Julie
Welcome.
William, the Community Development Director, and I wanted to just take a moment to formally introduce Kimbra to our new council members. Kimbra is our Community Development Manager, and she oversees our federal funding programs and our state funding programs, as well as our CHIP program, which is our Community Home Improvement Loan Program. And today she's here to share about the resolution, which she will do oftentimes during the year, come back to you with funding resolutions. Today's funding resolution is around our human needs funds. And so I just wanted to give you that formal introduction, and I'm sure you will enjoy her and her presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Hello to Mayor and City Council. So hold on one second and I will start sharing my screen. Oh.
I can see it.
Wonderful. It was a mix of also all of a sudden the video became big and I had to make a quick adjustment. But so hello again. My name is Kimbra Landry. I am the Community Development Manager, as Julie mentioned, for our Community Development Division. And I'm here to brief you all on the 2022 Human Needs Funding Resolution. Since 1989, funding for human needs has been established through the city's general fund pool, and that's with an allocation of about $3 per capita for human needs grants, and since 2016, an additional $1 per capita for Safe Streets programs. This year, there was a total of $451,200 available for the 2022 program year funding, and there was approximately $665,000 in requested funds. Annual priorities, which will be displayed on the next screen, are established through a public process with a citizen advisory committee and adopted through resolution with the City Council, and these priorities help to guide our funding discussions. Human needs are a use it or lose it grant, which is really to say that they're finite in their use. They must be expended by agencies within the program year, which runs on a calendar year basis, consistent with the city's fiscal year, and all funds are on a reimbursement basis to the agency. On this slide, we see the 2022 human needs priorities. Priority needs listed are housing, basic services, and homelessness, and the chosen supporting activities for each need. Priorities were adopted by City Council through Resolution 7705 in October of 2021. The needs established support all of our funding sources and not just our human needs funds, but as Julie mentioned, we have additional community development funding rounds, and these needs help to guide those, and that is our local, state, and federal funds that we receive. The public process, oh, excuse me, I'm gonna cough. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, the public process for human needs funds first starts with the Citizen Advisory Committee. A public hearing is held to establish priority need recommendations. After needs are established, the funding round opens for applications. Committee members review applications and hold another public hearing to establish funding recommendations based on proposals submitted. City Council acts to adopt the priority needs as they are recommended through resolution and adopt funding recommendations, which is the reason for the briefing today. And I want to just add real quick that while human needs funds go through a similar public process as our other community development funding sources, under Title II of the Everett Municipal Code, the CAC provides funding recommendations which are advisory to the final authority established by the mayor and city council. Other funding, which you'll be briefed on in a later time, is still advisory to mayor and council, but final authority lies with the external awarding agencies, such as Snohomish County, state departments, and the Office of Housing and Urban Development, known as HUD. So to dive in a little bit to Safe Streets. Safe Streets initially goes back to 2014 when the city began its effort to find comprehensive, collaborative, and compassionate response to Everett street level social issues. Under Mayor Stephenson, a community stakeholder task force was established called the Community Streets Initiative, or CSI Task Force. And that task force provided a report of long and short-term recommendations to address street level social issues. In 2016, the additional $1 per capita was added to human needs funds following the report and seeing a rising need to fill a gap of funding that would prioritize efforts to address homelessness at the street level for diversion, outreach, and housing. In 2018, the Safe Streets Program Directive 2018-04 was established by Mayor Franklin. The mayoral directive listed comprehensive efforts of collaboration between city departments to coordinate with partners and other governmental entities, nonprofit organizations, service providers, schools, and the community. And today, the ongoing efforts from these actions carries forth multiple city-led programs, such as the Community Outreach and Enforcement Team, known as COET, as well as the City Community Partnership Programs. Additionally, I want to add, again, a bit of clarification that the city established programs such as COET are not funded through the $1 per capita increased allocation. The funds for that allocation are really directed for Safe Streets community partnership programs, which are listed in the resolution for this briefing. And those are through the application process that we roll out with our general human needs funding round. On this side, we see how the 2022 funding round allocations have supported the established priorities. Basic services supporting mental health activities takes 15% of the funding pie. Housing efforts are at 19%. Homelessness, in addition to Safe Streets, has the largest share of funding with 39%, and Safe Streets accounts for about 27% of our funding allocations. The priority allocation for this is not unusual, consistent with the regional and state trends, and further intensified by ongoing effects from the pandemic. Staff has continued to see a rise of community response efforts to housing and homelessness for general human needs funds, in addition to Safe Streets. As echoed in earlier statements, community needs definitely continue to grow and evolve, and staff believe that now is the time to revisit the trends of funding. Over the years, award amounts have increased to help agencies respond to growing needs and leverage the public funds with the largest community service impact possible. Staff has always seen a greater demand for funding than what we have available under the current allocations for human needs and Safe Streets. to continue to support prioritized needs and help the community through collaborative efforts. We were looking to revisit funding and a proposal to increase the human needs funding pool as soon as the city is able to accommodate such an increase to address the growing community and the relative needs that will accommodate that growth. Next steps for community development annual funding efforts are to bring the 2022 Human Needs Resolution back to City Council for action. That is scheduled for February 2nd. As mentioned on slide 4, in late February, City Council will be briefed on federal and state funding award recommendations from our annual allocations as awarded by HUD and through the interlocal partnerships with Snohomish County. And action on those funding recommendations will occur in early March. And so at this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. And I will stop sharing real quick.
Let's see if we have any questions from council members, starting with Councilmember Ryan.
No questions. Yeah, glad to see the list in the briefing materials of the award proposals. During my day job, I do a lot of work with local human services providers, and just hearing about how great the need is and out there, I'm glad that the City of Everett can support them in all of their endeavors. So thanks for all your hard work.
Thank you. Councilmember Vogely. I wish I had some planned out questions because there's a lot in my head. So I'm not going to attempt to get all of them out right now. But when I see the pie chart of homelessness and safe streets, and I think I heard you say that, or maybe I just read it right here, this project is awarded under human needs and safe streets allocations. How do they differ? What's the difference between homelessness, according to this pie chart, the difference between homelessness and safe streets?
Yeah, so that's a good question for clarification. So again, the safe streets priorities are again focused on that diversion and outreach and housing component. With that, you have two projects that we fund through Safe Streets that are really kind of supporting basically the outreach and diversion. There's a large component of that that's really supported through that. The project that's split between the two is a housing component. A lot of the priorities that we're seeing, or the projects that we're seeing that come forth under the homelessness priority, start to actually marry a lot of the efforts that are also with the Safe Streets initiative. And that's part of the discussion that we'd like to start having, is revisiting that, because we're seeing that there's still a high need to house people. There's still a high need to, feed people, and a high need to continue with the outreach. And so that's something that right now that's focused on that diversion and outreach component, but we do want to overall revisit the homelessness priority as well as the Safe Streets program.
Councilmember Vogely, may I
Yes,
also add that,
please.
Remember back in 2015, 2016, our community had very few programs that addressed those that were living unsheltered and on our streets. Now you fast forward 6, 7 years, we have multiple organizations that are trying to help us to solve these challenging problems. And it's actually those priorities that we have between Safe Streets and human needs is becoming a little clunky, quite frankly. And so by us coming back and revisiting that resolution and perhaps lessening that clunkiness will be a great benefit, I think, for any confusion that now exists. So.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Julie, and thank you, Kimbra. I guess all of the muddled questions in my head, that's exactly why you're here and why we're going to rediscuss this at a later time, because it's muddled all over the place. So I appreciate that. And I mean, we need these things. There's no doubt about that. And we need more, no doubt about that. So that's all I'll say right now. Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Schwab.
Yeah, thank you for your hard work and your presentation. I am very thankful that we have this program in place. No questions.
Thank you, Councilmember Toohey.
Yeah, just want to thank Kimbra and welcome her, and your presentation was great. Really appreciated all that and look forward to getting these dollars out into the community so they can help people. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Fossey.
Big thank you, Kimbra and Julie, and I'm just really looking forward to further discussion. Thanks.
Councilmember Zarlingo.
I'd like to thank Kimbra for the presentation, very clear and informative. I appreciate the sustained contribution the city has made in this area and the careful thinking that goes into it by advisory committees. Look forward to hearing more about that in the future. Thank you.
And I have nothing else to add. And so we will perhaps revisit this at a future council meeting. We'll move on now to item 10, automated traffic safety camera system. And we got a presentation, and I believe we have present with us today, Corey Hart.
Yeah, this is Ryan Sass.
Oh, hi, Ryan.
Good afternoon, everyone. I wanted to introduce Corey Hurt, our hardworking and diligent city traffic engineer with our traffic group. Today's presentation is on automated traffic safety cameras. This is a briefing today that'll come back for potential future action to authorize a request for proposals. And with that, I'll turn it over to Corey.
Thank you, Ryan, and thank you, Council President Stonecipher. Good afternoon, Corey Hurt, City Traffic Engineer. I appreciate the opportunity to provide a briefing on automated traffic safety cameras today. I've been asked to give a short update on the current status of a request for proposals and answer any new questions Council might have about photo enforcement. When it comes to crash reductions, the safety improvements with photo enforcement have shown to be immediate at intersections for some of the most severe types of crashes. Major cities that removed their systems saw these crashes return to their previous norm. At the time of this briefing, here's the expected schedule for requests for proposal through implementation. Staff would return to Council for authorization to issue a request for proposals on February 9th. Vendor proposals would be due in March of 2022. Staff would return to request Council for award of the contract and authorization to sign in the May or June timeframe of 2022. Typical construction time and program rollout is about 6 to 8 months. During this time, permits would be issued, the system would be constructed, tested, and certified by the vendor. City staff would upgrade several older traffic signal cabinets to house the equipment needed. Judicial information systems would need to be integrated and electronic payment systems would be implemented. Training for police and court staff would take place, and a public information campaign would begin and signs would be installed. We anticipate a 30-day adjustment period where alleged infractions will be issued as warnings rather than citations. Only then would the system be commissioned and be made active. The request for proposals has been developed through a purchasing team and with the input of Public Works and Police, Municipal Court, and Information Technology. The current RFP includes red light photo enforcement at 6 intersections and a school speed zone enforcement in 1 school zone with an all-inclusive monthly fee per approach. The request for proposals requires data be hosted in the United States, not housed or backed up in other countries where privacy laws might be less stringent. The City of Everett will own all rights, title, and interest to the data, and all non-public data must be encrypted when transmitted from location to location. In the technical requirements, we included language to ensure that data can be extracted for our own analytics and community open data reporting. We also have included language under statistical reporting for measuring political disparate impacts, such as traffic infractions per capita segment by census tract or zip code. The RFP follows state law, which requires any photos or video of the alleged violation to be taken from the rear of the vehicle. The face of the drivers or passengers is not allowed to be shown, and as the alleged violation is reviewed. And in unusual cases where a face is visible, it is removed during the initial processing by the vendor. Prospective vendors will be evaluated on a series of criteria to ensure they're qualified and have the experience to operate a photo enforcement program of this magnitude and complexity in the city. Here's the 6 intersections for red light photo enforcement shown on a map. These are signalized intersections that are in the top 20 of overall crashes in the city, with the highest injury crash rate and the highest number of crashes that were cited for failure to regard a traffic signal. Based on this analysis, the best locations are northbound and southbound on Broadway at 16th, northbound and southbound at Rucker at 41st, northbound and eastbound Evergreen Way at Casino Road, northbound Evergreen Way at 4th Avenue West, westbound 7th Ave Southeast at Everett Mall Way, and eastbound Evergreen Way at 112th Street Southwest. The school zone photo enforcement would be at Horizon Elementary along Casino Road. As the photo enforcement locations were selected, geographic diversity was also considered. Through crash history and a safety analysis, crash history and safety analysis were the primary factors in the selection. All of the proposed red light photo enforcement locations are a mile or more apart. Of the 9 cameras at 6 intersections, 4 of the cameras are at 41st Street and to the north, and 5 are south of 41st Street. They're all on busy arterials with high traffic volumes and substantial pass-through traffic. Between photo enforcement and school zone enforcement, there'll be approximately 1,300 violations to review and process per month. When all the costs of the program of this size, it remains financially sustainable and revenue neutral with an estimated $208,000 in excess. By ordinance, all proceeds must be used for traffic safety improvements and programs in the City of Everett. So thank you. This concludes my presentation. I invite public comment, and if there are any questions from council, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Corey. We will go down the roll and see what questions we have. Councilmember Ryan.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Corey and Ryan, for your work on this. I had a chance to listen to the briefing at the end of last year too, so I appreciate the recap of it. I do have some concerns about this proposal, and as far as equity is concerned, I believe that whenever there's a punitively based system that's based on a flat fee, it disproportionately impacts our low-income communities. And so I have some concerns that low-income communities are also disproportionately our Black and Brown communities. So I have some equity concerns regarding that. I also have some concerns that if there is money that comes out in the end, it's money that's going to be going back into traffic safety, which further perpetuates a car-centric mobility system in the city. And I'd like to see further investments towards pedestrian safety, bicycle safety, and enhanced bus stops for people who are riding our bus system. I know that we all want safe roadways. It's absolutely a priority for public safety and for people on our roads who are either walking or riding or rolling on the streets to be safe out there. And I think that there are ways to get to that goal that aren't monetarily or punitively based. So I'd also like to wait and see too if the federal infrastructure package that's going to be coming down the pike has some money that can be included for alternate ways of increasing our roadway safety for cars and for other folks who are also on the roadways as well. So and just an ad for the end, I haven't had a chance to really talk to the community about this, so I'd like to possibly punt the vote for a little bit later, just to go through the full cycle of talking with the different neighborhood community associations and get input from those folks as well. And that concludes my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Vogely.
Thank you. Looks like the sun has shifted. Yes, I said it, the sun. So it looks like I'm shaded. Sorry. So I get to use a bit of my history. I remember being in the Public Safety Committee with Council President Stonecipher and Councilmember Toohey in real life in the room, with chairs. And I was able to come to the conclusion that the red light cameras were indeed for safety, not for profit. So, I asked a lot of questions at that time because, well, that's what I do. And so I was definitely able to find that, yes, if these move forward at any time, it is absolutely for the safety capability of them. I still believe that If they're there and it gets safer and then they leave, then the safety will also leave. So if we're able to implement these and either A, we get a nice chunk of change for infrastructure, and some additional funds, because people, the amount of traffic collisions, I didn't write down the link to share, but it's very bad. People are driving horribly and other people are dying. So if we could somehow make it so that, okay, we'll put in the cameras, but while they're there, we're also going to really change the built environment to make it safer, you know, so that we can then take the cameras away and have a safer community, a more accessible community and beautiful community. I keep coming back to like 526 and Casino, kind of the same thing, but that's where one of 3 of the cameras are proposed. So essentially change the infrastructure. Cameras aren't doing that. So there's that. And I will have to continue my thoughts at a later time when I have more of them written down, but I want an infrastructure change. I want a fully accessible, safe, and beautiful city. And being on TAC, Corey, Ryan, you have heard me say that all the time. So got my support. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Schwab.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. I just have a couple questions. One is during these studies, I was wondering what the comparison of infractions given between the actual residents of the area or out of city residents or commuters per se.
Thank you, Councilmember Schwab. Right now, we don't have that information, but we will be able to pull that information. So within the first few months, we'll have access to reports that, you know, should this move forward, that would indicate the, you know, the number of citations, violations by zip code. So we know whether most of the drivers are local or whether they are commuters that happen to be passing through. I tend to think drivers drive a little bit differently as they're closer to home. And I think drivers are more familiar with the roadway and they'll know that intersection and that it's photo enforced. So I too look forward to seeing that data and the results from that.
Yeah, thanks for that. And I guess another question I have is, obviously you've looked at a lot of the patterns of traffic. Are you expecting the patterns to change? Because not just speed, but attentiveness, but the pattern to change. Basically, maybe some drivers avoiding these intersections.
That's a good question. I've heard that statement made before, but I've talked to the traffic engineers in several of the other cities that run these programs, and they haven't seen any change in the traffic volumes in any measurable way. So I'm not expecting to see any change in the traffic pattern. You know, I don't expect a lot of cut through traffic or anything like that as a result of these programs. The arterials are still the fastest way to get around, and people tend to gravitate there.
Well, we certainly have a lot of drivers seeking shortcuts into some of our residential and some of our communities that aren't designed for it. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Toohey.
Yeah, no, I want to thank Corey again for your presentation. I know we've spent quite a bit of time on this, but I just had one comment on Councilmember Ryan's comment about the fee structure. And I know several ways in the city, whether it's the water bill or business licenses, we have a tier fee structure based off of, you know, those who have, you know, low income. So, you know, that might be something that we look at here to help offset anything that might look like we're targeting lower income areas, which I have to believe it's a lot of pass-through visitors on their way home. But, you know, we certainly could do that for our own residents. So that's all I have. But thank you again, Corey.
Thank you, Councilmember Tui.
Councilmember Fosse.
Thanks. I appreciate the briefing on the automated traffic safety cameras project and all the work that you and your team have done. But I do share many of Councilmember Ryan's concerns, especially regarding the equity piece and perhaps a lack of knowledge on my part on regarding any efforts in those particular intersections for traffic calming and mitigation investments that have been made thus far. So in light that this was something that the previous council had kind of pushed forward, and we have not even started our committees yet, which I'm very much looking forward to the retreat coming up, because I'm going to be on the Public Safety Committee. And I have not had a chance to do any significant outreach in my community on this issue. So I think it's a little premature to anticipate an issuance of an RFP in February. So is there a way I may request that we, or do I need to make a motion to postpone that for another month so we have time to get some feedback from our neighbors and community on this issue?
I can work with administration to talk about timing. Let's get the rest of the council members' comments and then we can kind of see where we're at.
Thanks.
Councilmember Zarlingo.
Well, I have been going through, I was at with Council Member Ryan, attended the meeting that discussed this in November where this was first brought up. And I've been looking into some of this since then. Also have been reading through some of the material we've got in written public comment so far. I very much appreciate that. It included things like links and other studies, the experiences of other cities, and I'm aware of some historical practices in various other cities. So we'll be looking into this more and hope to have more detailed comments in the future. I guess I'll recognize some of the concerns about equity and also the problems that we have where some of the people at most risk of this are not only vehicular inhabitants, but pedestrians in these areas that are often, these are people who sometimes can't afford cars. They're using buses and walking the intersections and they're at great hazard as well. So there's a real difficult balance here. The main thing I think is we just don't want to see so many accidents because these kinds of intersections and the accidents that happen there are some of the most deadly ones. So I appreciate the work that our traffic department has done here in terms of really focusing on the areas where there's the biggest difference to be made. Of course, we also then have commuters going through here and frustrations with anything that we might do that would slow that traffic. It's a tricky business. I'm encouraged by the possibility of getting some information about violations by zip code or residence, because that's a way we can use that data to improve the situation. My goal in this, and I don't think I'm alone, is that it'd be great to improve this where we just couldn't make any money off these things or support them anymore, even at zero net revenue, to essentially remove these problems. One thing I'd suggest we consider is focusing the revenue, any revenue beyond what is necessary to support the cameras themselves, to use that to go specifically to traffic safety improvements in the vicinity of these intersections. I mean, I suspect that the safety of the intersections is mostly dependent on the near physical vicinity, and perhaps a resolution or at least a sense of the council that that's where that revenue, any excess revenue ought to go, and that ought to be part of the public information campaign, because that focuses us on a consideration that Councilmember Vogely had expressed, I think, pretty eloquently, that the focus here is on improvement. It is easy otherwise to lose some of the consent of the governed by a public perception that we're doing this for any reason other than improving safety. And I know that was part of what came in on community feedback, and I respect that. I think it's our job to make it clear why we're doing this and the measures we're taking. And more comment on that as this gets to us in the next phases of this here. But I think that's a possibility in terms of letting people know why we're really considering this. I think that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just say that this whole issue of traffic safety cameras was brought up for the first time, as far as I know, back in the early 2000s. I believe it was before City Council in 2005 or 2006 when I was on the City Council. And we did quite an analysis at that time. It's interesting to me that the intersections that were at that time the most deadly in our city continue to remain the intersections that are the most deadly in our city for the most part. I think there were just a few changes on that. Having served as the council liaison to the Holly neighborhood for a couple years, I know that there is some really serious concerns about the school zone there. There have been many, many near misses, and it's really just a matter of time before somebody's going to get killed in that area. And so I hear the concerns about equity. I also share concerns about equity that have to do with why we would allow certain areas of our city to be so unsafe for the people who live there. I mean, if you are living in some of these neighborhoods, you're going through these intersections and are much more likely to be T-boned and killed in these intersections than in other areas of our city. So I think that the equity lens has to be applied to more than just the traffic infraction. And certainly we have traffic infractions all over our city that we don't have any way of offering a discounted violation price or infraction price for people who are low income. The fact is, the number of complaints about speeding in neighborhoods in my time on council has, in the past, several years, just kind of become exponential. It's one of the main concerns that if you are out going door to door at any time, that you will hear from people in the neighborhoods, really in all neighborhoods of the community. And there's a real sense that it's pass-through traffic. We haven't increased I-5's capacity to the degree that it needs to be to accommodate all the commuters that want to get around our community, and they find a very convenient pass-through in our city. And so I think as we move forward on this, it seems like we need some more time. We've got new council members. I've been through all of the information for more than a decade, and last year went through with the Public Safety Committee that Councilmember Bogley mentioned. Over the last year or so, we had quite the briefing on all of the crash data and everything else. I'm ready to move forward on this at any time, but I recognize that we need to bring this forward when we have council members who feel like they've had the level of information that they need. So we'll work with administration and come up with some other time that we can bring this forward. In the meantime, we do have some residents that would like to speak with us this afternoon on this matter, and then we'll call this to the end for now. Deb Williams, do we have speakers waiting to speak still?
President Stonecipher, we do, but before I promote, I need to mention that all the written comments that I did receive earlier, I have provided to council administration and the clerk to be part of the permanent record. And one of the speakers that I have waiting to speak, Michelle Stewart, please remember to unmute yourself, turn on your camera if possible. Please begin by giving your name and city of residence, and please remember to limit your comments to 3 minutes. And Ms. Stewart is one of those individuals. I did provide her comments previously. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Michelle Stewart, and I live in the city of Everett. I've prepared something to say, so I'm going to go ahead and read that. But before I do, I just want to point out that to date, I don't think that
the top 20 crash sites, the list of top 20 crash sites has been released. And I know that that comes up frequently in this conversation. I would like to see a list of those top 20 sites, because as a resident, it does feel like perhaps these certain sites are just being picked. You know, it'd be nice to see how they were picked, not just hear that they are in the top 20. So I'll just say that, and I will go on with my prepared talk. I'm following up on my recent memo addressing the automated traffic safety camera program and advocating that a thorough and independent equity analysis be the next step in this process. The following quote from the Government Alliance on Race and Equity captures my concern about this issue. Too often, policies and programs are developed and implemented without thoughtful consideration of racial equity. Thank you. When racial equity is not explicitly brought into operations and decision-making, racial inequities are likely to be perpetuated. Racial equity tools provide a structure for normalizing the consideration of racial equity. The benefits of using a racial equity tool in policy development and program implementation include identifying who will benefit or be burdened by a given decision, examining potential unintended consequences of a decision, developing strategies to advance racial equity and mitigate unintended negative consequences, and engaging community in decision-making processes. Conducting an equity analysis supports the responsive and responsible government section of the mayor's message and budget priorities for 2022 by helping to identify and eliminate barriers to equity in the work you do for our city. So again, I am advocating for a thorough and independent equity analysis as the next step in the automated traffic safety camera program, and that results from the analysis be factored into the program prior to authorizing the preparation and release of an RFP. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments and for being so patient. I appreciate it, Michelle. President Stonecipher, that is all I have wishing to speak at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The gentleman who spoke earlier after the consent agenda, I believe he wanted to speak on this. Is he not on the line any longer?
Unfortunately, he could no longer wait.
Okay. Thank you. So Corey, thank you very much for bringing forward this information. To my council colleagues, I would say any additional information that you would like to receive related to this, please feel free to reach out to administration and request that. I think it would be helpful for you to see some of the details of the work that has been done. I know the Public Safety Committee would probably gladly take this up again for some more additional work and review. And Corey, the crash data that was requested by the speaker, is that available to the public?
It can certainly be prepared and in a presentable format. So it's not readily available to the public at this time, but I can easily do that.
I think that'd be helpful, and council members may also want to see that as well. So if you can pass that forward, that would be great. And as I mentioned, we'll work with the administration and we're going to have our retreat on Friday. So that will help us understand a little bit more about how our committees are going to be working. And we'll get this on at a future meeting, although at this point, I'm not going to specify the date that it will come back for action. And I think that brings us to the end of our agenda. We are going to move into an executive session that's expected to last 20 minutes. And there is an announcement expected, or there is no announcement expected at the end of that at this time.
Hello, this is Council Member Tui. We're City Council is out of our executive session, and with no further business, we are adjourned. Thank you.